Have you ever spent a whole afternoon on your hands and knees, yanking out every single weed in your garden beds, only to see them pop right back up a week later? It is exhausting, it is frustrating, and I have been there more times than I can count. But what if I told you that some of those so-called weeds you have been battling are actually some of the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet? After gardening for over 2 decades, I made a discovery that completely changed the way I look at my garden. Some of those stubborn plants I was ripping out were more nutritious than the vegetables I was working so hard to grow. Today, I am sharing 10 weeds I stopped pulling when I realized they were superfoods. Stick around for number 9 because it is one that is probably growing in your yard right now and you had no idea you could eat it. And I have got a bonus tip at the end that is going to help you safely forage from your own backyard. First up on our list is dandelion. And I know what you are thinking. Dandelions, those yellow nuisances that take over the lawn every spring? Yes, those dandelions. And here's the thing, dandelions are not just edible, they are genuinely one of the most nutritious plants you can eat. Every single part of the dandelion is edible. The leaves, the flowers, and even the roots. The greens are loaded with vitamins A, C, and K, and they contain more iron than spinach. Let that sink in for a moment. That weed you have been spraying with chemicals or digging out of your lawn contains more iron than one of the most celebrated superfoods in the produce aisle. Young dandelion leaves harvested in early spring before the plant flowers are tender and have a pleasant, slightly bitter flavor similar to arugula. You can toss them into salads, sauté them with garlic and olive oil, or blend them into smoothies. The flowers can be used to make dandelion fritters, which are absolutely delicious, or steeped into a mild honey-flavored tea. The roots can be dried, roasted, and ground into a coffee substitute that is surprisingly rich and satisfying. Dandelions grow in USDA zones 3 through 10 and thrive in virtually every soil type and condition. They are one of the first plants to emerge in spring, which means they provide fresh, nutrient-dense greens at a time of year when very little else is available from the garden. Once I stopped seeing dandelions as the enemy and started seeing them as free food, my entire perspective on gardening shifted. The second weed I stopped pulling is purslane. And when you hear the nutritional profile of this plant, you are going to understand why. Purslane is a low-growing, succulent-like plant with thick, fleshy leaves and reddish stems that you have almost certainly seen creeping through your garden beds or poking up through cracks in your driveway. Most people pull it without a second thought, but purslane contains more omega-3 fatty acids than any other leafy green on the planet. That is not an exaggeration. It is the richest plant source of omega-3 fatty acids known to science. It is also packed with vitamins A, C, and E, plus a wealth of minerals including magnesium, potassium, and calcium. The flavor is mild, slightly tangy, and succulent, with a pleasant crunch that works beautifully in salads, stir-fries, and sandwiches. In many countries around the world, purslane is not a weed at all. It is a prized vegetable sold in markets and featured in traditional recipes. In Mexican cuisine, it is called verdolagas and is cooked in stews with pork and green salsa. In Greek cuisine, it is a key ingredient in a classic salad with feta and tomatoes. Purslane thrives in hot, dry conditions and grows vigorously in USDA zones 2 through 11 during the warm season. It is one of those plants that the more you harvest, the more it produces. So instead of fighting it, start eating it. Your body will thank you. Number 3 is a weed with a name that sounds like it belongs on a farm, and that is lamb's quarters. This tall, leafy weed grows in gardens along fence rows and in disturbed soil all across North America. It can grow 3 to 5 feet tall if left alone, and it produces an abundance of diamond-shaped, slightly dusty-looking leaves. Lamb's quarters is a close relative of quinoa, and when you taste the leaves, you can actually detect a subtle family resemblance. The nutritional content is remarkable. Lamb's quarters contains more vitamin A and vitamin C than most cultivated greens, along with significant amounts of calcium, iron, and protein. The young leaves and tender growing tips are the best parts to eat. They have a mild, spinach-like flavor that works in virtually any recipe where you would use spinach. Sauté them, add them to soups, toss them into omelets, or eat them raw in salads. They cook down beautifully and hold their texture better than spinach, which tends to wilt into nothing. Lamb's quarters grows in USDA zones 1 through 10 and is incredibly prolific. A single plant can produce tens of thousands of seeds, which is why it shows up in your garden so reliably every year. Those seeds are also edible and can be cooked like quinoa, though they are much smaller and require more effort to collect. The leaves, however, are effortless to harvest and provide free, abundant, highly nutritious food from spring through fall. Now, what I have been sharing with you so far is really just the foundation. I put together a complete guide that lays the whole thing out for you. It is called the 30-Day Kitchen Scrap Garden Protocol, and it is everything I have learned about regrowing food from scraps, organized into a simple day-by-day plan you can start this week. It covers which scraps are genuinely worth your time and which ones to skip. It walks you through the exact setup and methods so you are not guessing. And it includes a full 30-day calendar, so you know exactly what to do each day. Click the link in the description right below this video, just scroll down a little and you will see it. Or if you are watching on a television or a computer screen, you can take out your phone, open up your camera like you're going to take a picture, and hold it up to the QR code on screen right now. A little link will pop up at the top of your phone screen. Just tap that, and it will bring you right to the guide. No typing, no searching. Either way works. I think you'll be glad you grabbed it. All right, let us keep going because we have got 7 more incredible edible weeds to discover. The 4th weed I stopped pulling is chickweed, and this delicate little plant is a true hidden gem. Chickweed is a low-growing, sprawling plant with tiny, white, star-shaped flowers that carpets garden beds and moist, shady areas from fall through spring. Most gardeners either ignore it or pull it as a minor nuisance, but chickweed is incredibly mild and tender, with a flavor that is often compared to fresh baby lettuce or corn silk. It is one of the most palatable wild greens you can find, which makes it a fantastic starting point if you are new to eating weeds. Nutritionally, chickweed is loaded with vitamins A and C, calcium, magnesium, and potassium. It also contains saponins, which have been used in traditional herbal medicine for centuries. The entire above. Ground part of the plant is edible, leaves, stems, and flowers. Toss it into salads, pile it on sandwiches, blend it into pesto, or add it to smoothies. The texture is tender and pleasant, with no toughness or chewiness. Chickweed thrives in cool, moist conditions and grows in USDA zones 2 through 10, usually appearing in fall and persisting through mild winters into spring. It fills that gap in the growing season when most of your garden vegetables are dormant, giving you fresh greens exactly when you need them most. Coming in at number 5, we have got broadleaf plantain, and I want to be very clear that this is not the tropical banana relative you see in the grocery store. Broadleaf plantain is a common lawn and garden weed with wide, oval leaves and distinctive parallel veins that grow in a rosette flat against the ground. You have stepped on it 1,000 times, I guarantee it. This humble little weed is one of the most nutritious and medically useful plants growing in your yard. The young leaves are edible raw and have a mild, slightly bitter, earthy flavor. Older leaves become tough and stringy, but are still excellent cooked. Plantain leaves contain vitamins A, C, and K, along with calcium, iron, and anti-inflammatory compounds. In traditional herbal medicine, plantain has been used for centuries as a poultice for insect bites, stings, and minor wounds. The leaves contain a compound called allantoin that promotes cell growth and tissue repair. You can chew a leaf and apply it directly to a bee sting for surprisingly fast relief. For eating, young spring leaves are best. Add them to salads, cook them like spinach, or dry them for tea. Plantain grows in USDA zones 3 through 10 and shows up in virtually every lawn, garden, and pathway in America. It is tough, persistent, and free, 3 qualities that make it the perfect backyard superfood. The 6th weed on our list is wood sorrel, and this charming little plant is one of the tastiest wild edibles you will ever try. Wood sorrel has distinctive 3-part leaves that look almost identical to clover, which causes a lot of confusion. The easiest way to tell them apart is the heart-shaped leaflets. Wood sorrel has heart-shaped leaves that fold along the center, while clover has rounded leaflets. The flavor of wood sorrel is bright, tangy, and lemony, almost like a natural lemon herb. It is absolutely delicious eaten fresh, and it adds a wonderful zippy accent to salads, fish dishes, and cold soups. Children especially love the sour tang. Wood sorrel is rich in vitamin C and also contains modest amounts of calcium and iron. Both the leaves and the small yellow or pink flowers are edible. It grows in USDA zones 3 through 9 and pops up in shady garden beds, along walkways, and in lawns. I like to grab a few leaves whenever I walk through the garden and eat them like a snack. That tart, lemony burst of flavor is incredibly refreshing. Once you try it, you will never pull wood sorrel again. Number 7 is red clover, and this common lawn weed has been used as food and medicine for centuries. Red clover produces those familiar round, pinkish purple flower heads that dot lawns and meadows all summer long. Both the flowers and the young leaves are edible. The flowers have a sweet, mild, slightly floral flavor and make a beautiful and nutritious addition to salads. They can also be steeped into a gentle herbal tea that has been traditionally used to support respiratory and cardiovascular health. Red clover is a legume, which means it fixes nitrogen in the soil, actually improving your garden while it grows. Nutritionally, red clover flowers contain isoflavones, calcium, magnesium, potassium, and vitamin C. The young leaves can be eaten raw or cooked, though the flowers are the real star. Red clover grows in USDA zones 3 through 9 and thrives in full sun to partial shade. It is one of the most widespread and recognizable plants in North America. Next, time you see those cheerful purple flower heads in your lawn, pluck a few and toss them into your next salad. You will be eating one of nature's most time-tested superfoods. The 8th weed I stopped pulling from my garden is stinging nettle. And I know this one sounds intimidating. The name alone makes people want to run the other direction. And yes, fresh, stinging nettle is covered in tiny, hollow hairs that inject formic acid into your skin on contact, causing that familiar burning, itching sensation. But here's the deal. Once you cook stinging nettle, or even just blanch it briefly in boiling water, those stinging hairs are completely neutralized. And what you are left with is one of the most extraordinarily nutritious greens on the planet. Stinging nettle is packed with iron, calcium, magnesium, potassium, and vitamins A, C, D, and K. It contains more protein per volume than almost any other leafy green. It has been used in traditional medicine for thousands of years to treat allergies, reduce inflammation, and support joint health. The flavor when cooked is rich, earthy, and remarkably similar to spinach, but with more depth and complexity. Nettle soup is a classic dish in many European cultures, and it is genuinely delicious. You can also blanch and freeze nettles for year-round use, dry them for tea, or add them to smoothies, pasta sauces, and risottos. Stinging nettle grows in USDA zones 2 through 10 and prefers moist, nitrogen-rich soil, which is why it often pops up near compost bins and in fertile garden borders. Harvest with gloves in spring when the plants are young and tender, taking just the top few inches of growth. Despite the sting, nettle is hands down one of the most valuable plants growing in and around your garden. Number 9 is the one I mentioned at the beginning, and it is the common blue violet. Those pretty little purple flowers that bloom in lawns and shady spots every spring are not just ornamental. They are a bona fide superfood. Violet leaves contain roughly twice the vitamin C of oranges by weight. Let me say that again because it is genuinely astonishing. Those tiny violet leaves hiding in your lawn contain about 2 times the vitamin C of oranges per gram. They are also rich in vitamin A, calcium, and antioxidants. Both the leaves and the flowers are completely edible. The flowers are mild and slightly sweet, making them gorgeous edible garnishes for salads, desserts, and cocktails. They can also be candied with egg whites and sugar for a stunning decoration on cakes. The leaves are best eaten young in spring when they are tender and mild. Add them to salads, blend them into smoothies, or cook them like spinach. Violet leaf tea is another wonderful preparation with a mild, pleasant flavor. Common blue violets grow in USDA zones 3 through 9 and thrive in partial shade to full sun. They spread gently through lawns and garden borders, and once you start looking for them, you will realize they are absolutely everywhere. The fact that most people walk right past one of the most vitamin C-rich plants in North America every single day without knowing it is edible is one of the great ironies of modern gardening. The 10th and final weed I stopped pulling is amaranth, commonly known as pigweed, and saving this one for last feels fitting because amaranth might just be the most impressive weed on this entire list. Amaranth was a staple food crop of the Aztecs and has been cultivated for thousands of years across Central and South America. The wild varieties that grow as weeds in gardens across North America are direct relatives of those ancient cultivated plants, and they are every bit as nutritious. Both the leaves and the seeds are edible and packed with nutrition. Amaranth leaves are rich in protein, iron, calcium, vitamins A and C, and a host of other minerals. They taste similar to spinach, but hold up better when cooked and have a slightly heartier flavor. The seeds are a gluten-free pseudo-grain that is higher in protein than most true grains, including wheat, rice, and oats. Amaranth seeds contain all the essential amino acids, making them a complete protein source, which is extremely rare in the plant world. You can harvest the leaves throughout the growing season by picking young, tender growth from the top of the plant. For seeds, let the flower heads mature and dry on the plant, then rub them between your hands to release the tiny seeds. Cook the leaves as you would spinach or kale. Toast or boil the seeds like you would quinoa or oatmeal. Amaranth grows in USDA zones 2 through 11 and is one of the most vigorous, productive, and heat-tolerant plants you will ever encounter. A single plant can produce 100,000 seeds. The fact that this ancient superfood has been reclassified as a weed and is routinely destroyed by modern gardeners is one of the great losses in our food culture. Stop pulling it and start eating it, all right? Now, here's a bonus tip that is going to change the game for you if you want to start eating weeds from your garden. The single most important rule of backyard foraging is this: never eat any plant from an area that has been treated with herbicides, pesticides, or chemical fertilizers. This includes your lawn if you use a lawn care service, roadsides where chemical sprays are common, and any garden beds where synthetic chemicals have been applied recently. The chemicals can be absorbed into the plant tissue, and you do not want to be eating that. Stick to areas of your garden and yard that you know are chemical-free. If you are not sure, start a dedicated patch that you manage organically and let the weeds grow there intentionally. The second rule is positive identification. Make absolutely sure you know what you are picking before you eat it. Use a reputable field guide or a trusted identification app, and when in doubt, do not eat it. Start with the easy ones like dandelion, purslane, and clover, which are almost impossible to misidentify. As your confidence grows, branch out to the others on this list. Foraging from your own backyard is one of the most rewarding things you can do as a gardener, but safety always comes first. Thanks for sticking around to the end. If you want to stop guessing and start a scrap garden that actually keeps producing week after week, I would really encourage you to check out the guide I put together. It is called the 30-Day Kitchen Scrap Garden Protocol, and it is everything I have learned about regrowing food from scraps, organized into a simple day-by-day plan you can start this week. It covers which scraps are worth your time and which ones to skip entirely. It gives you the exact setup and method so nothing goes to waste. And it includes the full 30-day calendar with daily tasks so you always know what to do next. There are 2 easy ways to grab it. The first is to click the link in the description right below this video. Just scroll down a little and you will see it. The second way, if you are watching on a television or a computer screen, is to take out your phone, open up your camera like you are going to take a picture, and hold it up to the QR code on screen right now. A little link will pop up at the top of your phone screen. Just tap that, and it will bring you right to the guide. No typing, no searching. Either way works. I think it is the best investment you can make in your kitchen garden this year. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.